Okay, so today we're going with the phishing emails in action room. This is where we learn the different indicators of phishing attempts by examining actual phishing emails. So in this room, we're going to see real phishing emails. Now, we covered the basics in the previous room, but in this room, each sample will demonstrate different tactics that are used in phishing emails that are used to make them look legitimate. And so we're going to see how to be able to tell the legit emails from the phish emails. So the first email that we're going to look at is a cancel your PayPal order, right? So the following techniques that are used in this email is a spoofed email address, URL shortening services, and HTML to impersonate a legitimate brand. So if we have a look at the picture here, we can see that the email address says service@paypal.com, but the real sender address is no reply with a bunch of letters at Sultan Bogor, which is completely unrelated to paypal.com. We can also see that the recipient address is very strange. And to top it off, the title, your receipt for payment to Amazing Stuff. Now, this is kind of an obvious one because the sender address is weird, the recipient address is weird, and also it says your receipt for payment. But if you didn't pay for anything titled Amazing Stuff, you can clearly tell that this is a scam email. Now, looking at the contents of the email body, you can see that it says you paid a certain amount to Amazing Stuff, and it's basically just an invoice, right? This is what we call an invoice scam, where they've told you that you've paid for something, but now you're thinking, oh, I never paid for this. Let me call them and get a refund. And so once you call them, that's when they've got you, because they can put their social engineering tactics into play whilst on the phone. Because on the phone, you're thinking you're talking to this company called Amazing Stuff, when in reality, you're just talking to a bunch of scammers. And if you trust this company called Amazing Stuff, for example, let's just say it's Amazon, right? If you think Amazon has charged you for something that you are not actually using, and then you call Amazon, you obviously trust Amazon because Amazon is a popular merchant. And so whatever Amazon says on the phone, they already have that trust factor. And so when you call this number in the invoice, which is actually not Amazon, but you think it is, you already have given your trust to that person. And so you're more likely to fall for whatever tactics they might put at play because they have your trust. Now we can see another tactic used in the second half of the email body. There is a link there to cancel the order. Now in the previous video, I made it very clear that you should not be clicking any links when you don't know where that link is going to. Now the important thing to do here would be to hover over it or look at the HTML source for the email so that you can see what that link is. And we can see from here that it has nothing to do with the quote-unquote Amazing Stuff company. It is a completely unrelated link. But sometimes this isn't necessarily a red flag because certain places do use URL shortening services. And so your best bet is to use an online tool that can really show you what a link is directing you to. And so you put the link into the online service and it'll tell you all the online sites that it's going to go through before it reaches the final one. So we can see here that this link redirects to google.com. For the first question of the class, what phrase does the gibberish sender email start with? It starts with no reply. Moving on to task 3. So this email is titled Track Your Package. It will highlight the following techniques: a spoofed email address again, pixel tracking, and link manipulation. Now we've seen spoofed email address in the previous example. We can see it here, distribution center contact@beginpro.com. So the email is pretending to come from some distribution center, and the subject line has a tracking number. But again, if you haven't ordered anything from beginpro.club, you should already begin to be suspicious of this email. Besides the spoofed email address, there's something else that is similar to the previous email. We can see that Yahoo blocked the images from automatically loading. Now, if you hover over a link, you can see where the link is pointing to. If your email has come up as spam, certain email providers such as Yahoo or Google will disable the links in the email. And so you have to go to the raw source code for the email. In the raw source code, we can see what the links are for the picture and the tracking number. In this instance, there's an image file called tracking.png, and these trackers send information back to the spammer server. So basically, when you open the email that has been sent to you, the tiny picture in the email that sometimes it's not even visible to the naked eye sends information back to the spammer server and tells them that, hey, this individual opened this email. And so they know that your email is actually active, and they can also try different types of phishing attacks on that email. Now let's look at the question. What is the root domain for each URL? It is devret. On to the next one. We're going to get this room done pretty easily. This is select your email provider to view document. Now this goes into some more techniques. Urgency. We spoke about trust before. Now we're moving on to urgency. It also has HTML to impersonate a legitimate brand, which we've seen before. We've got link manipulation, credential harvesting, which is one that you'll see a lot of the time as a SOC analyst, and poor grammar and or typos. Quite common, quite easy to spot as well. Let's have a look. So we can see in this email, it was sent Thursday, July 15, 2021. There's a sense of urgency because the attachment expires on the same day. And then there's an action to perform right here, download document here. And so it's not giving you much time to think about the relevancy of the attachment. It's sending you this email on the exact day that it's supposed to expire. Now, when the victim clicks the link, they're redirected to OneDrive, at least something that looks like OneDrive. But when you look at the URL, it has absolutely nothing to do with Microsoft or the OneDrive. And then they're urged to click Get Document or Preview Fax. Now, once they click either of those buttons, they're taken to a page that's titled SharePoint Online. But again, the URL has absolutely nothing to do with Microsoft or SharePoint. Now, once they click either of those links, they're redirected to a page that's titled SharePoint Online, but we can see that the URL has nothing to do with Microsoft. And Microsoft owns SharePoint and OneDrive as previously mentioned. And we can also see that this looks like a PDF document, and we can see Adobe Document Cloud there. But again, the URL has no connection to Adobe at all. Also, they're given the option to sign in with Outlook, Office 365, and other things. Now the user has opted to log in with Outlook. Once they've entered their address and their password, they are greeted with invalid credentials. Now in this sample, there were fake credentials entered, but even if there were real credentials entered, because this is not a Microsoft site and has nothing to do with Microsoft at all, the attacker is really in the background storing the information that's being entered. And so the victim thinks that they're logging into Outlook, when in actuality, they're really just divulging their details to the attacker in the background. I didn't actually notice any grammatical errors, but usually there wouldn't be a capital letter in the middle of a word. Actually, I think this is a grammatical error. To read the document, please enter with the valid email credentials that this file was sent to. Now, it makes sense, but if it was a professional company, if it was an actual respectable company who wrote that, they would have written it in a more proper manner. But let's answer the question. This email sample uses the names of a few major companies, their products and logos such as OneDrive and Adobe. What other company name was used in this phishing email? So you've seen OneDrive and Adobe. It's a 5-letter word. Citrix. Yes, Citrix. Now for sample 5, please update your payment details. Here we're looking at spoofed email address, urgency, HTML to impersonate a legitimate brand. In this case, we can see it's Netflix, poor grammar, and attachments. So Netflix, not Netflix. So we can see the email address that it's been sent from has absolutely nothing to do with Netflix or any trustworthy website. Z99 at musakombi.online. And then the title is Netflix ID suspended. So you're like, my Netflix ID has been suspended. How do I get this back as quickly as possible? Urgency. Now, number 3, they've put your account is on hold with a Netflix sign right in the middle there. They're impersonating Netflix. So there's urgency and impersonation as well. Also, note the difference with spellings of the word Netflix. So we've got Netflix here, but it's not an I, that's an LL. Then we've got Netlix. I didn't even notice that one. That's pretty easy to miss. Netflix. So they spelled the words wrongly, and we can see in the HTML source, Netflix. But moving on to the body of the email, please update your payment details. And so they're rushing you. There's still more urgency here. They've said there's some trouble with your current billing information, so you have to open something. They've also left their phone number there in case you want to call fake Netflix. And we can see the attachment there at the bottom. Now, when the victim opens the attachment, obviously this is not from Netflix, but it says update payment account. Now, from my experience, what usually happens here is the victim clicks on the link saying update payment account. You can see that there's a space between AC and count. Very suspicious. Once they click on that link, it takes them to a portal where they think that they're updating their payment details. So they put in their card details or they put in their bank details, whatever it may be, and they do that first Netflix payment. But what's really happening is that the scammers in the background are taking note of the payment details. And so they're taking note of your bank account details or your card details, and then they're going to use that to withdraw money out of your account. Because basically you just gave them access to your bank card. And you might think that that is the only malicious link here. But if you look at the rest of the email, it says help center or contact us. These are other ways that they also get you, because you might click on the link and be like, that's a little suspicious, let me call them. But you would need to call the actual Netflix, not the contact details that have been left here in the email. Once an email is suspicious, once an attachment within an email is suspicious, the entire email, every single little detail about that email becomes suspicious. Now, the question is, what should users do if they receive a suspicious email or text message claiming to be from Netflix? Let's look at the hint. You have to go to this website. Forward the message to phishing@netflix.com, which is Netflix's email address for investigating potential phish emails. Sample 6, your recent purchase. This email sample will highlight spoofing, BCC recipients, urgency, poor grammar, and attachments. So in this email, starting at number 1, our favorite thing, spoofing, we can see the email claims to be from Apple support, but it has nothing to do with Apple support. Now, this email was designed to purely confuse the victim. So the email was sent to the victim, but they were blind carbon copied, right? It looks like Apple support sent the email to another Apple email and then also sent it to the victim. But the initial recipient Apple email is also spoofed, because we can see that it says at app.apple.iud456.com. So the domain there isn't Apple, it's actually iud456.com. And then app.apple is the subdomain of that main domain. There's also the sense of urgency, your recent purchase at 3rd of April, 2020, 9:30 a.m. But this email was sent same day, 1:41 p.m. And so you're there panicking, thinking, what did I just purchase? Double jackpot slots Las Vegas? What is going on here? And so you're trying to reverse that purchase as soon as possible, so you're more inclined to read that email and see what's going on. We can see there's a couple of typos here. Do no reply. And payment in the email spoofing. Apparently this sample is completely blank. There's no email body, but there is an attachment. Now when you open that attachment, you can see a receipt, an invoice. When you open that attachment, it contains an image of an Apple Store receipt. And so like the previous email, you're inclined to call and find out what's going on. And you're thinking you're talking to Apple, which you trust, but you're actually talking to some other completely different person who's just an attacker and trying to get your personal information. What does BCC mean? Blind carbon copy. And basically what that means is if I blind carbon copy 5 people on an email, it would only get to that individual as if that was the only person that I sent it to. What technique was used to persuade the victim not to ignore the email and act swiftly? This is what we call urgency. Let's move on to the final sample. DHL Express Courier Shipping Notice. Spoofing, impersonation, and attachments. You see the sender email has nothing to do with DHL. We can see that this is a shipping notice. Thank you for scheduling a courier shipment with DHL. I didn't do that. Urgency. It's impersonating DHL as well with an image, and it is not in fact DHL. At the source code of an email, we can see that the web page doesn't contain an actual destination URL. So there's no href here that can lead us to an actual URL. The only way to interact with this email is the attachment in the email. And we can see that the attachment is an Excel file. So let's look at what's in the Excel file. We can see that it is in Chinese, I think it is. So it says click enable editing to translate language, because obviously it's in Chinese. And then it runs a payload which throws an error. Very suspicious. Now apparently we're going to look at this email attachment, close the details in the next room, which is basically in the next video. But let's answer the final question. What is the name of the executable that the Excel attachment attempts to run? Name is regasms.exe. You can see that at the top there. Submit and conclusion. Fantastic. And so we've completed another room just like that. Absolutely amazing. Another week knocked out. If you've come this far, I appreciate you watching. Like and subscribe and stay tuned for more security content. If you want to become a SOC analyst, you want to become a security analyst, I'm going through the TryHackMe SOC Level 1 path, and I hope you stay tuned. Stay interactive in the comments, ask any questions, and let's keep making progress.